Hello 9th class students. Today we will start a new chapter in science, chapter number 5, cell. In this chapter students, we will detail study about the cell, the structure of the cell, the discovery of the cell, and what are the different structural units of the cell. So let's start. First of all students, the cell is actually the structural and functional unit of the life. Let's understand it with an example. That if we take the example of our house, then our house is made up of small rooms, and a room is consist of 4 walls. Now, if we see a mason building a house, then you saw that he arranges the bricks to form the wall. So, the basic and structural unit of a house is somehow the bricks. The wall is simply made up of small bricks like this. One brick is arranged over the other brick. So, this one brick is the structural unit of the whole house, smallest unit of the whole house. In the same way, the body of the living organisms is constituted of the very small unit. That unit is called cell. A single cell possesses the characters of the life. A single cell is the smallest thing that is living. First of all, a scientist named Robert Hooke in 1665 discovered the cell in a cork cambium. Cork is actually made up of the hard bark of the plant. So he observed it under a simple microscope and found the structure something like this. We call it honeycomb like structure. The very first structure of the cell observed by the Robert Hooke was like this. Because that microscope was not too much powerful, so he was unable to see the things inside the cell, but somehow he observed the cell like this. Robert Hooke. In the year 1665, first of all, he discovered the cell. Let's see students some history regarding the discovery of the cell, some important name of the scientists who discovered different things in the cell. First of all, Robert Hooke that we have seen discovered the cell in 1665. The most important or the credit goes to Robert Hooke for the discovery of the cell, but he didn't discover too much inside the cell, but he gave a rough idea about the cell, that the living things is somehow made up of the small particles or small units. But first of all, the living cell was discovered by Leeuwenhoek. So, Leeuwenhoek first of all discovered the free living cell in pond water. So, he discovered free living cell. Now, the detailed structure of the cell was discovered, and a scientist named Robert Brown who discovered the nucleus of the cell. We will see about the structure of the cell. So, Robert Brown first of all discovered the cell nucleus in the center of the cell. Fourth discovery, that was about the protoplasm of the cell. Protoplasm, that means the different cell organelles that are present inside the cell, and the cytoplasm of the cell, the liquid that filled inside the cell membrane, that collectively called protoplasm, and that protoplasm was discovered by Purkinje. The name of the scientist is Purkinje. Purkinje first of all discovered the protoplasm of cell. Now, after the discovery of all these things, two scientists named Schleiden and Schwann, who proposed the cell theory. We will discuss about the cell theory also. Cell theory first of all stated that all the living organisms are made up of small living units, and the name of that small living unit is cell. So, two scientists, Schleiden and Schwann. These two scientists collectively proposed the cell theory. Now, after proposing this cell theory, a scientist named Virchow explained this cell theory in detail. So, the next scientist is Virchow. Virchow explained cell theory. So students, this is a short brief about the discovery of the cell. The detailed discovery of the cell was done after the year 1940, because in 1940 the discovery of electron microscope took place. The scientists discovered the electron microscope, and electron microscope was much more powerful than their traditional microscope. It can see through the cell. So, the detailed structure of the cell was revealed in 1940. Now, let's see that how many number of the cells are present in the body of the living organisms and what are the shape of the cell. So students, if we talk about the number of cell in the living organisms, then on the basis of the number of cell, the living organisms can be classified into two groups. One is unicellular and second is multicellular. In unicellular organisms, their body is made up of single cell, and that single cell is capable of performing all the living activities that are takes place inside the body of a living organisms. But in multicellular organisms, there are numerous cells are present. We can say million and billions and more than that number of cells may be present in multicellular organisms. Multicellular, that means whose body is made up of many cells, just like the body of human being. So students, second thing is after the number of the cells, the shape of the cell. What is exactly the shape of a cell? So students, there is no definite shape of the cell. Depending upon the function of their cells, their shape may vary. The shape of the cell may be spherical, may be round, it may be elongated cell, it may be pentagonal like this, it may be elongated cell, it may be cuboidal in shape, it may acquire different shape according to its function that are performed by the cells. But if you broadly classify the cell, then cell can be divided into two groups. One is animal cell and second one is plant cell. There is lot of difference between plant cell and animal cell. We will discuss about them, that what are the differences in them. Let's see the structure of a cell, that which are the things that are constitute a cell, that made a cell. So students, actually the cell is, instead of a single unit, it is made up of different organelles inside the cell, and we call it cell organelle. There are many types of the cell organelles present inside the cell. We will see them one by one. The very first cell organelle we will see from the outside to the inside of a cell. See a general structure of a cell. It is neither an animal cell, not a plant cell, but it is ideal cell. We will include both the structure of the cell in this diagram. So first of all, the outermost covering of a cell that bound all the cell organelle as well as the protoplasm is called cell membrane. So the very first cell organelle is cell membrane. Cell membrane is the outermost covering that binds the protoplasm and cytoplasm of the cell. This cell membrane controls the entry and exit of the molecules inside and outside of the cell. In lower classes students, you have studied about the diffusion. Diffusion is the movement of the substances from their higher concentration to lower concentration, and this phenomena is also responsible for inward and outward movement of the particles from inside outside the cell and inside the cell. Whenever we intake the oxygen through the breathing, then the concentration of the oxygen outside the cell is higher and inside the cell is low, because the oxygen present inside the cell is utilized to oxidize the food and it produces carbon dioxide as a byproduct. So the concentration of O2 is higher outside the cell and lower inside the cell. So oxygen moves inward from the higher concentration to lower concentration by the phenomena of diffusion. Secondly, it also controls the entry and exit of the food particles, and it also protects entry of some particles inside the cell. That is the reason why this membrane is also known as selectively permeable membrane, because it only allows the selected substances to go inside the cell and come outside from the cell. Students, if we put this cell in 3 different concentrated water, let's see, you can perform this practical at your home also. We take same type of the cell and we will put them in 3 different glasses of water, and the concentration of the solution in the water is different. Always remember students, the cytoplasm of the cell have a concentration in it, and we considered it standard solution for standard concentration for this practical. So there is some concentration of the cytoplasm of the cell, then here we put one cell and the concentration of the solution is higher than that of the cell concentration. The concentration of the cell is low. Second thing, here we put another cell whose concentration of the solution, because we can change the concentration of the solution by adding the solute in it, concentration of the solution and cell is equal. And in the third one, we put a cell here and the solution of the concentration is low and that of the cell is high. In the three cases, there is difference in the concentration of the solution in which the cell is putted. One, in the first, the concentration of the solution or the water is higher than the cell. In the second one, we call it A, B and it is C. So the concentration in B is equal to that of the cell cytoplasm, and in C, the concentration of the solution is lower as compared to that of the cell concentration. So here in the first case, when the concentration of the solute is higher in the water outside the cell, then the concentration of the water is low. The solute that we dissolve in water is high, so the amount of water outside the cell is low and inside the cell is high, and there will be net movement of water from inside the cell to outside the cell. Water will move outside the cell from lower concentration to higher concentration. From, you can see here that the concentration inside the cell is low and outside the water cell, that is in water, is high, and movement of the solvent particle or water taking place from inside to outside. We can write here that movement of solvent, or in this case we take it water, from inside to outside the cell. In the second case, students, where there the concentration of the solute and solvent, concentration of the solute inside the cell and outside the cell is equal, there will be no movement of the water molecules takes place from the inside to outside or outside to inside. That means the shape of the cell will remain same. In the first case, when cell loses the water, it will shrink down. The cell will shrink because it is losing the water. The water is coming outside the cell and the cell will shrink down. In the second case, the cell will not shrink nor swell up, because there is no movement of water is taking place either inside or outside the cell. But in the third case, students, where there is higher concentration of the water inside the cell and lower concentration outside the cell, in this case just opposite of the first case will take place. In the very first cases, very first phenomena, the water was coming outside, but here in this case water will move from the lower concentration to higher concentration and the cell will swell up. It becomes turgid. It will swell up and its size will increases. So students, in the case of diffusion, if we compare this phenomena to the diffusion, then it is just opposite to diffusion. In diffusion, the movement of the solute particle takes place from higher concentration to lower concentration without boundation of any semi-permeable membrane or any membrane. But in these three cases, or in these two cases, first and third case, the movement of the solvent particles is taking place from the lower concentration to higher concentration. That is through the semi-permeable membrane, because this cell membrane is known as semi-permeable membrane, and this phenomena is known as osmosis. Osmosis. In osmosis, the movement of solvent particle takes place from lower concentration to higher concentration. Let's see the definition of the osmosis. The movement of solvent particle from lower concentration to higher concentration but students, in this moment one most important thing is that semi-permeable membrane concentration through semi-permeable membrane. This movement is always takes place through a semi-permeable membrane, and always remember that the movement of solvent particles takes place. Note the solute particles. Now what is solute and solvent? Let's see, if we add water and salt, then it will make salt solution. Now you can easily detect that which substance is in lower quantity and which one is in higher quantity. We are adding a little salt to a glass of water, then we are dissolving the salt, and in which we are dissolving in water. Water is in large quantity and salt is in lesser quantity. So the substance which is in higher quantity is called solvent, and the another one which is in less quantity is called solute. This solvent plus solute makes solution. So here the movement of water molecules or the solvent which we are using is takes place, and not the solute particles which we are dissolving. So students, this process is osmosis, and osmosis and diffusion, both processes are very essential for living organisms to intake the gases as well as the nutrition and exhale out the byproducts. Now let's back to our topic, that this cell membrane is selectively permeable first of all. Second thing, this cell membrane is mainly made up of lipids and proteins. The things that constitute that make the cell membrane are lipid and protein. We can easily see the structure of the cell membrane with the help of microscope and the arrangement of the lipids and protein, that how they are arranged, how they are form the cell membrane. This cell membrane, students, In unicellular organisms, it is very flexible and it helps the organisms to intake the food. In amoeba or in unicellular organisms, when the food is intaken by the cell, that is called endocytosis. Endocytosis, that means intaking the food by the unicellular organisms or the movement of the food particles inside the cell. And exocytosis, exocytosis is the process in which the substances are exhaled out from the cell. The substances are given out from the cell. Now students, this cell membrane is present in plants as well as in animal both. But apart from this cell membrane, only in plant cell another hard covering is found. That covering is known as cell wall. A hard covering that is present outside the cell membrane, which is mainly made up of cellulose. The main constituent of the cell wall is cellulose, and this cell membrane was made up of lipids and proteins. This cell wall is rigid and very hard as compared to the cell membrane. That is why we feel some hardness whenever we touches the plant, just because of the cell wall. This cell wall is a dead structure and mainly made up of the cellulose, which is a dead structure also.